Very happy to speak with my next guest on the Sports Card Nation podcast. If you're watching this on video, he doesn't need an introduction, but for audio purposes, he's an uber successful entrepreneur, businessman, creator. He's obviously a card collector, like many of us listening to this program. He's got a new product. It's not really new, but a new iteration of the product that he already has, which is VeeFriends, now going to be with Topps Chrome. And I probably missed a tag there, Gary, for you, but Gary Vee, thank you for gracing us with your presence today.
I should be thanking you, John. Thank you for having me on the podcast. I'm thrilled that you mentioned anything, let alone miss something. So I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm really a fan of the content you've been creating. I think these card podcasts matter. I'm envious of all the 15-year-olds that have all these. I would have been a much happier boy in 1990 if all these shows existed, because I'd be listening to them 24/7. I'm thrilled to be here. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Again, thank you as well. We're both from New York City, products in New York City. We have actually similar card starts as well. I started doing flea markets as a very young man. I'm older than you, so I got my start a little older just by being born earlier. Then went into shows, opened my card store up at 20, did that for 6-7 years, and then the online card world really exploded and blew up. But you've been in the hobby a while like me. We've seen this thing just explode right in front of our eyes, and both our cases part of that. And does that surprise you? Just talking about the years you're involved in this thing, just some of your thoughts looking back from that flea market start and then doing those shows as a young man to where we are today in the hobby.
Yeah, I think so. For me, in 84, 85, 86, when I'm chasing Don Mattingly's and Dave Winfield's and Mike Pagliarulo's and, Dave Righetti cards, I'm a kid. I'm not really thinking in macro business terms or the concept of the hobby. What year were you born, brother?
72. So
Great.
I'm old.
Older. So this 87 Topps was out of control. Like that was the apex. 87 Topps is just a watershed moment in card history. That Christmas season, even the kids in my grade that weren't into cards got a full set of 87 Topps. I can't even imagine how much 87 Topps was produced.
I think the press has just shut up.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think, 87 Topps was when I think I was in 6th grade. Baseball card club opened in my school. 87 was the first time I went to a card show. 87 was when I realized there was the Beckett baseball card guide. Prior to that, I'm just kind of collecting. Now I'm like, wait a minute, these things are worth money. And I was an entrepreneur from the get, right? I'm doing lemonade stands. I'm doing I'm doing shoveling snow. I'm like car washing, anything, I grew up pretty humbly. And so anything for $1, because my parents were not in the business of buying me toys. So if I wanted stuff, I needed to buy it. When I realized cards were worth money, that was insanity. And so, I think from 87 to now, over all these decades, I'll be honest with you, I'm not overtly surprised as I sit today as a 49-year-old businessman, because I believe that trends change. For our grandparents, John, like collecting antiques from Europe or stamps or coins were their flavor of choice. For you and I, as we go into this chapter of midlife in our 50s, right? Go into that chapter, if you and I have disposable income, we want to buy a Mantle rookie. We want to buy a Jordan rookie. Like these are our antiques. These are our stamps. These are our collectibles. And it's gone beyond us, right? Now people collect sneakers and video games, and, collectibles are inherently human. Cavemen collected pretty rocks, and so this is a forever game. So I'm not surprised, because sports has become a much bigger part of our culture. You may know this, John, but the kids that are listening don't. athletes in the 40s and 50s had jobs in the off season because they didn't get paid
Oh
enough money.
yeah. Yeah, many of them sold insured. Like you hit it right on the head. The contracts weren't what we see today, and even and as you saying that, Gary, even some of the bigger names. Some would say, well, even some of the bigger names. A lot of those guys did like speaking engagements or went to a different club.
Yogi Berra worked in like a hardware store in Hoboken.
Yeah,
Like he was time or whatever, maybe 11. I don't even remember the number anymore. My football knowledge is better in baseball, but like he's one of the great players, Hall of Famer. Like these guys were. So what I'm getting at there is the business of sports has become much bigger, and that trickles down into our wonderful hobby. And so no, I'm not overtly surprised. As you might have saw, John, I started to get loud in 2017, 18, 19, pre-COVID about cards. At that point, I had a big social media presence. And it was because I went to 17's National, or maybe 18, in Cleveland. And I was like, something's happening here. Because my career went like this, John. I was in it from 84 to 88 as a kid collector. Then from 88 to 94, I was a full-fledged dealer. While I was in high school and even late junior high, I would spend many weekends selling any weekend that I wasn't, the 4 or 5 weekends my dad gave me that I didn't have to work in his store, I would do shows. I would sell at school. This is pre-internet. Then I went, and went into my family business and took my passion of collecting cards into collecting wine. And then it respun for me, John, during the Sosa McGuire summer, because eBay was out and I was aware those cards got hot. So I had to go through all my commons to find all my Sosas. So I had to go back into all my 5,000 count boxes, John, and find all my Sosa rookies, 90 Fleer, Upper Deck, all that. So I did that for a summer on eBay with my brother when he was a little kid. Then I got focused again when LeBron came out. I thought LeBron was going to be the next Jordan. Shocking. I lived through Brian Taylor and Harold Miner and, Todd Baby
Jordan.
Yeah, and Wally Joyner and Corey Snyder and Ellis Burks. And, I went through all those eras of like the next big thing. But LeBron hit. So I collected a little bit in 03. And then, I fell in love, got married. My career took off. And then there was a big 15-year gap for me coming back in like 18. I collected a little on the side, random stuff I wanted to collect that I could afford now. I couldn't afford Frank Thomas 90 Leaf so easily as a kid, but I needed to get that, and Mattingly 84. And then obviously grading was not something we grew up with, John. That was the biggest calibration of when I got back in the game, the grading and Beckett versus PSA. And then I like vintage, so SGC mattered to me. And then I became very infatuated. And I'm now the current thing I'm collecting now, John, is fictional character rookie cards. 1940 Superman gum ink, 1966 Batman Topps, 66 Donruss, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Hulk, rookies.
And we've seen, as you well know, we've seen that market make strides and explode as well. And
I would actually argue the biggest thing on my mind right now is the next wave of explosiveness, which I think is going to be the Comic Con community coming to the sports card community. I think I'm starting to sniff that people want to collect SpongeBob and Harry Potter and Doug from Nickelodeon and Shrek rookie cards. And then guys and gals in our age group, Bugs Bunny, Betty Boop, Popeye the Sailor Man. I'm like very, very much spending the last 2 years of my life in my side time as a hobbyist, really doing research, because I think the supply and demand is coming, John. There's no supply, as of these older cards, vintage. I mean, there's one Wolverine PSA 10 rookie card in the world. One. It's like a 1980 sticker.
Crazy.
Yeah, from Venezuela or something like that. So I think, I think that's going on. So I think the hobby's never been healthier, John. I think it was really good that the hobby's so hot right now, where it went through a little bit of that COVID bubble. A lot of people lost money, made money, fast losing money in that COVID bubble. And I think that's good because a lot of people in the hobby right now are not making the same mistakes. They're not like this NFL draft right now. Like, I don't think you're going to see people pay for Jackson Dart 1-of-1s what they paid for Mac Jones 1-of-1s, because they've learned Daniel Jones one-on-ones. Like they've learned that speculating on rookies is lucrative if you're miraculously lucky and Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or, become your guy. But 9 out of 10 guys, like, Malik Willis and Levis and Zach Wilson and, like on and on, Josh Rose. Like, I think people are learning, like the speculating rookie thing. They're starting to be a little bit more thoughtful. The numbers are still high. There's still a lot of gambling in pack breaking and speculating rookies. But you've been around it forever, John. You know this. People are a little more thoughtful this time around. And I actually think we're in the new watermark of the hobby. I think this is now the base. Pokemon's red hot, as you know, hotter than ever. And the sports stuff, and then you see the alternative WNBA, UFC, some of these products come out. So, and you also have a real owner at the top of Fanatics. Michael Rubin's a real businessman, like a real businessman. And so I think,
yeah, I do. I appreciate that he goes out there and talks to folks rather than sit behind closed doors. You do the same with your stuff as well. That says something about a person, right? That's willing.
Also, he's a sports enthusiast, like Rubin.
Yep.
I know him well enough to know, like, he loves sports, like going to a card show and debating if Tyrese Maxey is going to be better than, Zion Williams. Like, he likes that banter. But again, what I know, and I've known him a long time from afar and then got to know him over the last decade closer, like, that's a real businessman who, like, wants the hobby to get very big. You've got Pokemon red hot, and then you've got characters like me who fell in love and were affected by this hobby, who are, now I'm taking my stab at trying to build a Disney, a Marvel, a Pokemon. And I'll be honest with you, I hope VeeFriends inspires other entrepreneurs to make, music cards or build their own universe, or, and it's a very good time for the hobby.
Yeah, no doubt. You mentioned, the COVID bubble, which I called it like the Midas touch. You really could do no wrong almost as a buyer and seller during that period. But it's a great point by you, Gary. We're now in a time period. The hobby is still very strong, as you said, but you have to be smarter to be successful. It just doesn't. It's not going to happen on its own. You're going to have to do the due diligence, put in the work, the research, and do all that. During that COVID time, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry to interrupt, please.
Yeah, so I say now you really have to do your due diligence. Where during COVID, it was like everybody was doing well. Now you've got to really put in the effort in the work.
That's right. And by the way, it's why I'm so obsessed with vintage. Like, Will Chamberlain's Will Chamberlain forever. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not guessing when I buy a Jordan rookie. I'm not speculating when I think 86, 87 Fleer might be underpriced now post-bubble on Barkley, or Akeem Olajuwon. I'm not hoping and praying for Dan Marino to be good. He is good. And so I think a lot of the kids are learning. I think vintage will continue to matter. Notice how I just talked about fictional cards. I didn't talk about the new Disney Chrome, the new Marvel Chrome. I'm not even talking about the rookie cards from the 60s and 40s and 70s that there's no supply of. So I think kids or new entries into this, the real business logic of supply and demand continues. I remember when I said, on the record, I thought Zion was going to be a very good pro, John. But I bought
a lot of people in your defense. I mean, you weren't the only one.
But John,
the book's not closed yet either. But
you're right.
It's
but John, I bought no Zions. I bought no Zions because I knew production for Panini was going to be through the roof because the hobby was red hot, and I knew that Zion's one vulnerability was injury, given how he played and the weight and everything. And so, as a kid, I bought every John Olerud, every Todd Van Poppel, every Brian Taylor, every Harold Miner, every single Browning Nagel. I mean, I speculated because it's fun, right? You get the rookie cards. But the problem is, John, you know this, in the 90s when you and I were doing it, a hot card, Greg Jeffries was $8. Now,
I was a Greg Jeffries guy. That was my dude.
Greg Jeffries, when I was speculating on him, when all that was going out, those cards were, if somebody got to $10 a card, that was insanity. I remember Sheffield's Upper Deck got to like $12. I thought it was like $1 billion. Now you get a insert of a kid who has got a 3% chance to be a Hall of Famer as a first-round pick, and they're going for $8,000. Like, the stakes are higher now, John.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. I speaking of Greg Jeffries, I still got 3 binders of Greg Jeffries rookies sitting in my garage, and my wife wanted me to throw them out. We did like a little spring cleaning, and I couldn't pull the trigger. I'm like, no, that's got to stay. This can go. This can go. That's 3 Greg Jeffries binders stay.
Jeffries stay. I had so many Mo Vaughn rookie cards. Oh, the one that really hit for me was Kenny Lofton. I was such a big college basketball fan. I remember when Kenny Lofton was the point guard on a Final Four Arizona team.
Yeah.
So I realized he was a prospect in baseball. I went crazy. That one worked out for me.
Yeah, he's a borderline Hall of Famer if you look at his numbers.
I'm actually pissed that he's not. He should be a Hall of Famer, John.
Yeah, I think people, like they say, chicks dig the long ball. And that wasn't his game. He never claimed, it wasn't from the start. But when you look at everything else, he was a 4-tool player minus the home run. So pretty good ball player.
During that juiced era, he dinged out some couple numbers as well.
Yeah. All right, so listen, let's talk some VeeFriends. This thing, you launched it in 2021. Like I said in the intro, this isn't new, but you have a new iteration of it coming with Topps Chrome. What kind of to start off, and this thing has a life of its own. There it is.
Well, John, it has a life of its own, and it's well said. For everyone who's listening to your podcast, since I'm a fan of it, I know that 99% of people here don't know about it. I'm aware that 90% of the people.
I don't know. That's a high number. I know.
Okay, fair enough. I'm maybe playing a little too much of a humble card because obviously the National has been good to us.
I was going to say, I see your booth at the National. And that's obviously, as you know, the number one.
A better way to say it is I'm empathetic that 95% of the people listening right now think it might come and go. A MetaZoo. You remember Sports Flicks when you and I were in the 90s?
I love sports. There's probably some around here somewhere. Yeah.
So I'm empathetic that people think it may come and go, but I will say this, given how educated and thoughtful your community is, if people went to eBay and went to completed items and typed in VeeFriends, VEE Friends, one word, I think they'd be flabbergasted on what's happened over the last 4 years in a very separate part of the universe, to your point, not dead in the hobby, but over here to the left, slightly touching the hobby, has been this 4-year journey of a 2-decade successful entrepreneur, that's me, putting in a lot of work building out this universe that's grounded in really cool dynamics. On the facade, it's Pokemon. It's very collectible. It's about competition. But then underneath, it's a little bit Jim Henson, a little Sesame Street, a lot of good, I'm trying to teach kids and parents, Focused Falcon, Why Focus Matters, or Ambitious Angel, or Accountable Ant, or, Considerate Cowboy. Like, talking about being a considerate person, that's got some nobleness behind it. Like the Noble Numbat, another character in our world. So I'm building this world. We've done really well with comic books. There's cartoons. If someone listening has a kid between 4 and 9 years old, if you go to VeeFriends.com/cartoons, I think you'd be really pleasantly surprised on the quality of the cartoon. And this Topps Chrome launch, John, has been on fire. Topps pre-sold it a couple weeks ago for $99 a box. The secondary market has taken off, and it's caught a lot of people in the hobby off guard because there's just been a lot more demand. As you said, we've done 2 other card releases. They were done by Zero Cool, which was a startup company that Topps bought. Josh Luber, the founder of StockX, created. We did Series 1. We did Series 2. They've done extremely well. Series 1 was made more like a flawless National Treasures, only $1,000, high end. Series 2 was made a TCG, which you would only get if you bought the NFT, because we do NFTs as well, digital collectibles, which I'm sure you've seen, John, and others. The Panini NFTs are hot right now over there. I don't know if that's caught your attention, but this is obviously the mothership. Superfractors. I made an insert in here called Erupt, which is like a Kaboom. There's only 1 in every 13 cases. It's actually drawn by the original artist of Kaboom 2013 basketball. There's There's a Y2K insert, which is a hat tip to Pokemon's only year with Topps Chrome in 2000, and they had a Y2K insert. So there's a manga variant. It's got your number to 5 red, so it's a pure play Chrome card. There's a Superfractor. There's a Michael Rubin Superfractor, because one of the inserts is the Entrepreneur Elf is a big character in my world. The Entrepreneur Elf's favorite entrepreneurs insert, which has Rubin and Dana White and me and Ariana Huffington, Stephen Bartlett. So it's a well thought out checklist. The boxes are loaded because the production run was a little limited. So there's a lot of great inserts. And I put in a lot of work, John. I'm doing a lot of outreach to local card stores. I went to Atlanta for the national event with card stores and spent a lot of hours mingling. As you know, for the last 4 years, I've been mingling at the national with the dealers. And so I'm excited about where we're at right now. And we're early. Look, I've got 20 years of perfect execution to get in striking distance of Pokemon. So it's not lost on me how big my ambitions are. But John, I'd be lying to you if I didn't have confidence that I'm building something very real.
Yeah, well, you listen. You weren't born yesterday. You built stuff up before. This isn't your first rodeo, as they like to say. And the fact that you're attending these things, and again, is a testament, right, to your passion, right? You care. This is your baby.
John, the dirty little secret is I would pay to attend the national, let alone.
Don't tell them.
Listen, good news. They're in good shape. I have a corporate sponsor. I get plenty of our dollars. But to your point, I don't know if you know this, John. This is why I admire so many of you. My lifelong dream as a kid was to own a baseball card store. My dad had a liquor store. I wanted to have a baseball card store. And when I was a teenager, I fell in love with wine collecting. So my destiny changed. But this is my favorite hobby this is my only hobby. Collecting cards, and I also do a little comics and a little bit collectible toys. So this is why VeeFriends makes so much sense for my high school friends that know me. I was 80% trading cards, but I collected Star Wars figures. I collected comics. I was huge when Valiant, I got killed on that. That was the junk wax era of comics. I owned a shitload. Sorry, I don't know if cursing's loud on this, but I owned an ungodly amount of Valiant comics in the 90s. But I like pop culture. I like buying things at flea markets and selling on eBay, toys, puzzles, games. This is my jam, and I'm humbled and grateful to be a part of it deeply now. And VeeFriends will keep me in it for the rest of my life, John. The rest of my life.
There you go. And you mentioned Pokemon, but Pokemon's already been done, and this isn't Pokemon. You've made that very clear. It's very different, but kind of you've also paid homage to them.
Well, listen, the reason I pay homage is Pokemon is one of the most successful intellectual properties of all time. And it's young. I wasn't there when Disney first hit the scene. I wasn't there when Hanna-Barbera hit the scene. But I was there when my brother, who's 11 years younger than me, was begging me to go to the card store and buy a box of Pokemon for him. And I'm working at this liquor store, and I'm like, what is that? So I went to the local store. I'm like, you got Pokemon? And he's like, you mean Pokemon? I was like, yeah. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, it's the hottest thing. Now, I did collect and flip Magic the Gathering when it first came out. And so I was aware of and again, because I was who I was, a lot of my friends in grammar school played Dungeons and Dragons. And so I was around nerd culture and liked it and believed in it. But when I saw Pokemon in mid 90s, and my brother was so deep, that really caught my attention. And so, yeah, I have very big aspirations, and we do have a lot of characters. What's unique about VeeFriends is we have a lot of characters. I mean, in Topps Chrome 2025, there's 100 characters in the set, but that still leaves out about 150 plus other characters that will be in 2026. And so similar to Pokemon, there's a lot of characters. Similar to Pokemon, there's a collecting DNA in the IP. Not different than Pokemon, but more like Sesame Street. There's a real agenda for the VeeFriends to leave a positive impact on both kids and parents.
Well, even the names of the characters, Gary, they're traits you admire in people and yourself. Most people would admire the traits that you use, honesty, loyalty, along those lines, right? So it's a great lesson in there. You didn't necessarily have to do that.
No,
you could have made a product that minus that part if you wanted to. yet that was important enough to you to include it as the product, as the final edition. And I think that's I commend you for it, because I think that's great. I think it's a great lesson for kids to learn. Hey, what is loyalty? I mean, maybe they've heard it and they don't know what it is.
I've already literally, thank you for saying that. I just got chills because I'm so excited. I just got a direct message on Instagram. It said thank you. So, I want to open it. I see it and I click it and the guy's like, I got my box yesterday. I opened it and my son is freaking out for the Considerate Cowboy. It's probably why I mentioned it earlier. And that gave me a 15-minute conversation with my son about being considerate. Like, parents need help right now, John. The world's complex. There's a lot going on. Yeah, I'm really proud of it. But it's also, look, we have a comic book, direct-to-consumer comic book play right now. And I would also say for people listening, it also got, like, we're putting a mature label on comic number 5. It's pretty grown up. It's more for the Walking Dead crowd. It's, so it's fun to play. The other thing I will tell you, John, in leaving you is there's a lot of, I'm going to speak, look, there's a lot of moms and dads, a lot of boys and girls that collect, but I'm going to speak to the dads right now because I am one. I feel like a lot of dads in the hobby, John, would love to have something to collect with their daughter. And by the way, again, I want to caveat it because I know people get sensitive. I'm aware that many girls like sports and all that, but I definitely am really excited. Even the packaging that for the people that are watching, you can see there's a lot of packaging that, the Fearless Fairy is on the packs, the Ambitious Angel. I'm excited. I feel like I've made a product because this. When you have common interests with a child, your relationship's much deeper. So I'd be lying to you if I didn't say I'm excited about the notion of knowing I'm going to get emails from dads in a couple months saying, hey, thank you so much for making this product. Me and my daughter just completed our set. It gave us, I used to have to drag her to the card store with me and my son or her herself. So yeah, I think there's a lot of good intent. I would say that this project for me, John, is both selfless and selfish. On the selfish part, I'd like to build one of the biggest businesses of all time. Why not? I'm a competitor, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'd like to build a big business. But on the selfless part, to your point, I didn't have to go down the route of altruism, of bringing positivity to the world, but practicality. And that is a big agenda of VeeFriends.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. You're going to see a lot of those people here in a few months at the end of July in person. You'll get those thank yous, not only social media, but directly as well. And I think, kids are going to learn. Like, when I was 8, 9, I saw the word loyalty, but I truthfully, if you ask me, hey, what does that mean to you? My definition might have been close, but not exactly. And so it's going to be a teaching thing as well. It's going to be a community, which it already is for that matter, but a bigger community. And, it's going to be fun to see each year in the iteration of it. Real quick, I know you're pressed with that. Like, how much carte blanche? I mean, this is your baby. Was Topps good with you, letting you do kind of what you want? Like, let this,
Truthfully, if I like to keep it real, yes and no. They were a great partner, but look, I mean, I feel like they probably underestimated demand. So I'd be lying to you if I didn't say I was pushing them to make more. And I was like, I get it. Like, you don't know if it's going to do well. It could be a flop. I go, but look at all this information. Look at all the eBay sales. Look at all the people that visit the website. Look at the national booth. So that was that. I would also say that that on the flip side, outside of probably making less product than I wanted, when I think about the sales team, Brennan, like when I think about Clay and Mike Mahan at the top and then Ruben ultimately at the top, I think that, it's funny. I think that because they know me so well, they probably rightfully, John, were like, let's just make sure the first year goes well, because maybe we want it for Gary too much, or maybe we're being delusional because he has had so much success in the past. So I'm empathetic to how we got there. So I would say overall 90% yes. I'd be lying to you, John, though, if I didn't say I'm upset that the secondary price has gone to where it's gone so fast. We priced it.
It's hard to control that.
I know that
there are little things. It's hard to control.
And John, I know that. Listen, I'm a free market guy. I've been around the block. But it was priced for $99 for a reason originally, right? I wanted this to get into more hands at $350 a box, less hands than 99. Luckily, we did blasters. Luckily, it's going to be at all the GameStops, or excuse me, half the GameStops. Luckily, they're selling it at 25 bucks a blaster. John, I did something cool. I did a 1 of 1 in the blasters. There's a 1 of 1 blaster insert called Blast Off. I'm very proud of that. I feel like blaster boxes are always getting things that don't matter. So I was excited to do something very big in there. So I'm proud of that. I would say this in my parting shot. If you came into this saying, or not knowing, if you gave 30 minutes on Twitter, on Discord, on Instagram, on eBay, or at the National, if you give 30 minutes to VeeFriends, I think you'd be pleasantly surprised of how deep and real it is. And we'd love to have you on board because the community is incredible and we're putting out a lot of practical positivity.
Yeah, no doubt. You want to give out website, socials, anything you want to share with as we wrap it up?
Yep. I think VeeFriends, and it's everywhere, VeeFriends and VeeFriends cards. So VEE Friends is the thing you need. It's not V, it's VEE Friends. And feel free to DM me. I'm Gary Vee. And I thank you for your time and your audience and your graciousness, John. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary, and continued success. It's going to be fun to watch for sure.